The global timer can be added to any entity, but the UI won't show the proper time if your global timer isn't on the source entity. So for example, I have a world here set up that once the timer reaches 0, a chest will spawn, just like that. And the way I've done this is by using a global timer component on my stage entity, and of course a node graph that will spawn the actual chest. And the way that node graph looks is just like this. The global timer reaches 0, it checks if the name matches the actual timer that we're looking for, and it just spawns the chest on the player's location. And this is what the actual UI looks like. It's just a basic UI, timer UI, and if I wanted to do the same thing, the exact same thing, but with a different object, and if I applied the timer onto the object and give it the node graph, the exact same thing basically. If I tried doing the same thing, this is what it would look like. We notice that after a while, a chest will still spawn, but the timer doesn't update at all. The timer is still stuck at 0, it doesn't move. And this is because even though the global timer is still running logically, it doesn't know which source entity it should be using, because the new object that we've added it's not an available source entity to us in the UI section. So we have to use either the stage entity or the player entity. And one way of doing that is by making use of, you can make a time manager, and I'll show you how to do that. So I've remade everything, and the stage entity now has every single timer in the global timer list. And the only node graph that the stage entity has is the time manager that we made in the node graph. So that's how the stage entity looks, and the sign no longer has the global timer component. I removed it completely because it's only supposed to be used on the stage entity. So the only thing that the sign has is the node graphs, which is used to activate the timer and spawn the chest. So I'll go over how spawning and all that stuff looks like. So I'll go over the time manager first, and this is what it looks like. Essentially, once this is activated, I guess I should go over the send time thing first, but I have a signal that takes in a timer name and a boolean, and once the signal is activated, it checks to see if it should be starting the timer or stopping the timer, and that's based off the timer name, of course. And once that's all good and dandy, once the timer is activated, once the timer reaches 0, then it looks for the timer that we want to make use of, and it sends a signal, which you don't need to send a signal to spawn the chest, but it just makes it neater. If you wanted to, you could have the logic here, but just to make it neater, it's nice to have it, compact. But once the timer reaches 0, it'll send this signal to spawn the chest, which now looks like this. It does the same thing. Once the spawn chest signal is activated, this has to be true, and it spawns the chest at the player's location. But of course, to actually spawn the chest, once the sign is pressed or tabbed, it'll actually, send the timer signal, so it actually makes use of it. But I want to go over something really quickly in the time manager, and that is the init timer. The init timer is basically used to stop any timer that we have, or basically all the timers that shouldn't be running for the whole game, because this is on the stage entity. Any timer that we have is going to be running the second the game starts, and because we don't always want that, I use this init timer that just has a countdown of 1, so it immediately goes off. And once that happens, it's going to stop because I only have one timer, it's just going to stop the game timer. But it's going to send a signal to stop the game timer, and that is going to activate this thing. And because of that, I made sure to add a check in the spawn chest area that makes sure that the signs variable, which is enable, is set to true. That way, once the timer is stopped at the start, we don't immediately get a prefab on the player. But that's basically it. This is the time manager, and you could of course add more timers to this. Now if I start playing the game, you'll notice that the timer isn't showing anything because the timer hasn't started yet. But if I press the sign, start timer, you'll see that it correctly starts and it's not stuck at 0. And now there should be a chest that spawns. There we go. And that's basically it. If you have any questions, let me know.